Managers with a specialized education do not make a firm more productive, create more jobs, increase sales. None of those things.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Did you hear that management is worthless? It's true. Everybody knows it. Management is worthless, especially if you have gone to school to be management. Especially if you've gone to school for management. The National Bureau of Economic Research, NBER, conducts, you guessed it, economic research, okay? They dropped a paper last month titled Eclipse of Rent Sharing, The Effects of Managers' Business Education on Wages and the Labor Share in the U.S. and Denmark. You know, that's a really
sounds like something a National Economic Research Bureau might come up with.
Yes, definitely. But basically what they did is the researchers looked at the U.S. and Denmark because of the vastly different circumstances in the two countries with respect to labor's bargaining power and the political norms. And what they wanted to do was take a look at the effect of management's business education on wages. You know, I mean, that's like, if a manager has a business degree, they have an MBA or something, what does that do to workers' wages? So they looked at the U.S. and Denmark to try to figure that out. So if they can prove an effect in both of these countries with the vastly different kind of political landscape, labor landscape, then it strengthens the argument that the cause they are looking at, which is management education, is in fact causal, right? The correlation that they're looking at between management education and workers' wages, if they can prove the correlation in both of these situations, it makes the case stronger that management as education is causal. You will not be surprised to learn that the main effect of a manager on wages is that it the main effect of a business degree of a manager on wages is that it lowers them. Specifically, within 5 years of a business manager, quote unquote, which is what they call managers that have a business education, within 5 years of a business manager taking over a company, wages decline by 6% in the U.S. and 3% in Denmark.
And just to be clear here, you're talking about the wages of the employees, not the managers' wages themselves, right?
Right. So what might surprise you, though, that doesn't surprise me. Like, if somebody has a management degree, somebody went to school for management, it does not surprise me that they lower workers' wages. Not surprising, okay? But what might surprise you, and it did surprise me, is that beyond lowering wages, management having a management expertise, a management education, creates no other discernible effects. Meaning that managers with this specialized education do not, and they specifically looked at this, managers with a specialized education do not make a firm more productive. They do not create more jobs. They do not increase sales. None of those things. All they do is create higher profits and lower wages. That's amazing.
And I think that's really something worth hammering home here is does not make it more productive, but can increase profits because those profits are coming at the expense of the workers themselves, not because they help the company be more efficient, but because they found ways to squeeze out of labor.
Yes. Yeah, and that's all that they're doing. I mean, they looked at it. They did not produce more. They didn't make more jobs. They didn't increase sales. The only difference is that they were stealing more money from workers and putting it in the hands of the shareholders. It's just amazing. So they say, so why is that is the next question. If this is something that's happening, if you get a business education, why is that happening? They say that a big reason from this comes from trends that the two types of managers exhibit when it comes to what they call rent sharing. Or put another way, when a company comes into good fortune through no increased productivity, no increased sales, or anything, just changes in the market happen. Just no fault of the market, they didn't do anything, just the market changes and a firm makes more money. Okay? What do the managers do in that situation? And what about in the reverse? In the reverse situation, where there are changes in the market and a firm makes less money, where changes in the market create a decrease in profitability, wages are cut. This is done by both business and non-business managers. This is done by managers that have specialized education and managers that do not have specialized education. And that's not surprising. If a firm becomes less profitable, they have less money to go around, and maybe we can say that the people at the top are making too much money, but that's not surprising. That's not a surprising result. But when changes in the market create an increase in profit, what happens? For workers under a non-business manager, for workers that work for a manager who does not have specialized education, they see an increase in wages. A 10% increase in profit per worker is associated with a 1% increase in wages. Okay, so if the company benefits under somebody without this specialized education, a worker benefits. That's pretty interesting. For workers under a business manager, for workers that work for a manager with a business education, they share 0% of those excess profits. So if a company does better under a manager with a specialized education, that workers do not benefit. It's just amazing. So being management poisons your mind. Power corrupts, especially when you don't have accountability to the people that you hold power over, right? Power corrupts is kind of like a cliche. Like people understand this, even if you're elected, that it can having power over people can have a corrupting influence over you as a person.
And I think what this is demonstrating is the more you've been propagandized or at least exposed to that ideology of business school and management philosophy, the more corrupt you are going to be. The more you're going to exercise that power over people in a way that's detrimental to the workers.
Right. It's not uncommon to hear stories about, somebody got to get a promotion and their orientation towards the people beneath them where they just were, their orientation towards those folks changes.
Yeah,
just because they got a promotion, right?
And something that we probably don't talk enough about inside our labor movement is the union office or union staff to management pipeline. Yeah. And it's demoralizing when some folks that used to be your brother or sister who, perhaps were fierce advocates, maybe they were really good as a union officer or union staffer, and next thing you know, they're on the other side of the table because they've taken a promotion or they've swapped teams, more or less. That's something that we have to be cognizant of, and it's something that does happen, unfortunately, way too often.
Yeah. But so just a normal person who gets that kind of power, like, it can change them. But like Adam said, being trained to be management, like, this is what you've spent 4, 6, 8 years of your life learning how to be, learning about ways to wield power over folks, learning about ways to wield power over folks that you have no accountability to. Absolutely brain rotting. Just totally destroys you. So some specific points of the curriculum that the researchers point to being the cause of that are, like, so why is it? Okay, so workers' wages get cut when you have a business manager. And that is because of the way that they do or do not share rents. Why is there a difference in the way that business managers treat rents compared to non-business managers? Well, the researchers point to specific points of the curriculum in business education for this. First, the emphasis on shareholder values, as advocated for in 1970 by Milton Friedman, who stated that the social responsibility of business is to increase profits. Under the influence of folks like Friedman, some managers started viewing workers not as stakeholders in the corporation, not as partners, but rather as sources of costs to be reduced, even more so than they did before. Because I think that was not an uncommon thing before Friedman. But and second, the emergence of a business school doctrine advocating re-engineering and creating quote-unquote lean corporations that entailed identifying and removing unnecessary costs. That started being viewed as an integral part of successful management. So you've got, okay, I've got to reduce unnecessary costs, and employees are just costs to be reduced. Okay, so combining those things really going to hurt the way that you treat your workers. So for an example in just how the people who are educating tomorrow's quote-unquote business leaders are rotting people's brains, let's listen to how Charles Payne, he's a contributor to Fox Business, reacts to the suggestion that soaring oil and gas profits are indicative of the company's ability to lower gas prices, at least somewhat. Let's go ahead and play that clip, Adam.
Before you go, because we're about out of time, I just want to put this Bernie Sanders tweet on profits for the big oil companies, because I know you have been talking a lot about this. He says, well, hey, look at the profits of these big companies. ConocoPhillips, up 1,400%. Chevron, ExxonMobil, as the gas price increases 63% to $4.24. Your response?
I'm doing a big segment today on corporate profits because they were the best last year since 1950. Profits,
Yep.
Corporate profits overall.
I got
you know what I say? Great, fantastic, I love it. Profits is not a four-letter word in a capitalist society. This is how that's how we generate opportunity and prosperity for all Americans. And by the way, ExxonMobil last year, their profit margins
But wait
were
a second,
10%.
Charles, people are going to hear you say that and they're going to say, wait a second then. With all those profits, there's going to be room for gas prices, oil prices to come down a little bit.
I'm confused about that.
That they should...
Brainworms, man.
He's confused about that.
He's confused about that. So Jeffrey Michaels over in the studio in Athens said that he wasn't hearing the clip. So Ben, if you're listening, if you could help us out with that. I'm not sure what the deal was there. But what that was Charles Payne, Fox Business analyst, whatever. He was reacting to the suggestion that Bernie Sanders made that some of these people, these oil corporations, who we're not talking about small profit increases, right? We're talking about profits. Profits are up 1,400% year over year for one oil corporation. 100% for another, 50% for another. These are huge profit increases. And Charles Payne reacts to the suggestion that Bernie Sanders makes that, okay, this is indicative of like an issue that these companies have, that they are not, these companies should be made to share the profits with the consumer, or maybe even with the workers. And he reacts to that suggestion by saying, I'm confused by that. Like, just the thought that people at the top would not take everything that they possibly could is confusing to this guy who has been his brain has been rotted. Just there's nothing left besides worms crawling around in his head.
Well, Jacob, now listen. That 1,400% increase in profits ought to make you feel like much more opportunity is available to you as an American.
Oh my gosh, dude. Oh. I mean,
do you feel the opportunity? Do you see it? Do you smell it? 1,400% growth in profits for that oil corporation, making you feel.
Can you feel the freedom?
Can you feel it?
Can you feel the freedom? That's just seriously just amazing. I mean, that's just fascinating. No, I don't want to replay that for the radio. That we recapped it, but I mean, wow. like confused by it. Like not even that he disagrees with it, but just like he can't wrap his brain around, like the thought that, he just can't even wrap his brain around it. Brainworms, man, brainworms. They have been rotted by this ideology of people at the top deserve everything. They don't just deserve everything that they have. They deserve everything.
Well, just to harken back to our conversation with Daniel from Energy Alabama earlier, and he really hammered home that they focus on people. It's about people. Mm-hmm. But, folks like Charles Payne on Fox Business News, profits come before people. 100% of the time, it is about profit.
Yep.
And there is an essential contradiction between profits and people. Our interests do not align. Certainly not always, and certainly not here in this case where Exxon and Chevron and ConocoPhillips see their profits skyrocket while our gas prices skyrocket at the pump. The ordinary average American who's being fleeced because we don't have much of a choice.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project. And you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.